Hello, everybody. It's good to be back with everyone here today. And at the last video we did, there was a abruptness to the ending, and I gave you the explanation in class. And so I wanted to begin today with the decline of Ghana. Also, we're going to talk about the Malian Empire and its demise, and also the Songhai and its end as well, and a little bit in between of some of the rulers and the effects that Islam had in all of those empires. So let's begin. So the Empire of Ghana gradually lost control of West Africa to the Almoravids. Now remember we talked about the Berbers. The Berbers were people who lived in the northern part of Africa, at the northern part of the Sahara Desert, and a lot of them converted to Islam when Islam started conquering northern Africa after it went into Egypt. And so the Almoravids, they were kind of a neighboring kingdom to a degree, and uh, and so in 1203, Sumaguru, the ruler of Susu Kingdom, captured Ghana. This kingdom was short-lived, and then of course later the Ghana Empire was conquered by the Empire of Mali. So Ghana had a lot of people coming after it. When you have a kingdom that has that much gold, it tends to draw a lot of attention. And on the next slide, I'm not really going to read this whole thing, but this is the Epic of Sundiata. Sundiata is the story of the actual Lion King, and some people really believe this person existed. Some people think it's more legend. Some people say, well, he existed, but the story itself is kind of embellished. I really don't know, but I'll give you a chance to read that if you want to pause it and read that. We'll also talk a little bit about that in class. So here we are in the Mali Empire. As you can see, all this highlighted area is going to be more of the Malian Empire. A little bit more to the ocean as well. It'll cover a little bit there. And here's one of the city and the capital of Gao. So the Empire of Mali. So here it is, as you can see. It covers a little bit more of the ocean over here. It's got Timbuktu. It's got Gao. It's got also the original Ghana Empire, which is in this area as well. And I believe this was the Ghanaian capital as well here, so at Niani. So under Sundiata's leadership, the Empire of Mali grew quickly. Sundiata directed his people to improve agriculture and trade, and he made his capital Niani. I'm sorry, I messed up. In the Malian Empire, the capital is Niani, and the capital of the next empire will be Gao. So that is my fault. It's Niani. Here are some of the things that they grew and traded a lot of. Now, the Empire of Mali grew to 3 times the size of Ghana. And if you look at your map that you created from your textbook, you can actually see that too, that the Malian Empire is significantly larger than the Ghanan Empire. The kings of Mali expanded trade across all the Sahara, from Cairo, Egypt, Tunis, Tunisia, and west to the Berbers as well. So you have a lot of things, a lot of trading going on north and south and west and east of and all of the upper parts of Africa. So the Malian Empire is expanding and getting quite powerful, not just by expansion, but by trade. And then Timbuktu became a large trading center, and it's gonna have a long history with Islam. So Timbuktu was originally settled by the Berbers. They were pastoralists who migrated with the seasons, bringing their animals to the Niger River when the savannah was dry. Here's some pictures of Timbuktu. You can see here a mosque, which is still a very famous mosque. It still stands today. I don't know if it's used or if it's more just for show. Not sure about that. Timbuktu became an important trading center between Western and Northern Africa. It was known as the place where the camel met the canoe. So think about this. So in Timbuktu, because of its placing, You had it had water sources because it was in the savannah area, and you also had camels because it was just south of the Saharan desert. So it was a pretty opportune place for trade, especially people coming out of the Saharan desert. Timbuktu later became the primary center of Islamic knowledge in Western Africa. Mali controlled the gold mines of Ghana at Wangara. New gold mines were discovered at Bur, near the capital of Niani on the Niger River. Mali controlled the salt mines at Takasa, and Mali also controlled the copper mines at Takeda. So Malian has a lot of resources going on. They got lots of gold, they got lots of copper, they even control the salt mines, and so this empire is controlling all of it. And trade is still going on, but when the government controls most of it, usually it's the government that wins the most. Now, probably the most famous um, ruler of the Malian Empire is Mansa Musa. Mansa Musa, he came to power around 1307 CE. He was a devout Muslim. In 1324, he made a pilgrimage to Mecca with up to 50,000 people. Now, why did he make a pilgrimage to Mecca? Well, if you remember from the five pillars, one of them is the Hajj, and that means you need to make a pilgrimage to Mecca. And although he was way out in Africa, he felt like he needed to do that as a devout Muslim, and he did. And when he came to Mecca, he made a great showing. He traveled to Mecca with about 100 camels, each carrying 100 pounds of gold dust. So Mali's wealth was really quickly known throughout European and Muslim worlds. It is said that when he went to Cairo in Egypt and they bought a bunch of supplies there, he spent so much money or gold there that it lowered the value of gold there for I think about 7 years, is how the story goes. I could be wrong on the year wise, but because he just dumped so much gold in Cairo because he just had it, the value of gold instead of being $50 went down to like $25 because there's so much of it. Everyone had it because that's what he used to buy all his stuff. So uh, Mansa Musa and the Malian Empire was a filthy rich empire because of all its resources. And of course, they controlled everything up to the salt and the gold. After Mansa Musa, after he died, the Malian power began to decline. And Mali could not protect its camel caravans from the northern Berbers. And that's the thing. I mean, you got Muslims fighting Muslims, which wasn't uncommon by this time. Just because you're a Muslim didn't mean you're necessarily a friend. By the mid 1400s, the Berbers captured Timbuktu. I mean, they're the ones that started it, right? About 400 years ago. The small kingdom of Songhai near Gao, led by Prince Sunni Ali, conquered the Malian Empire in 1463. So let's talk about Sunni Ali. Sunni Ali became the king of the Songhai Empire. He moved the capital to Gao. Sunni Ali was not a devout Muslim. So you have Mansa Musa, who was a devout Muslim and had a lot of acceptance within the African, West Africa and Northern Africa because of his devotion, because Islam had taken such strong sway in that part of the land and country. But Sunni Ali was not a Muslim. Well, I shouldn't say. He probably was a Muslim, but he didn't practice. In fact, many African Muslims had mixed opinions about some Islamic teachings, such as those concerning the role of women. Um, Ibn Battuta, which we'll probably talk a little bit about, this is a man who lived in, I believe, Spain, and he was a doctor or a lawyer or something like that, and he wanted to take a pilgrimage all throughout pretty much the world at that time, especially the Islamic world. And he comes down to Africa, and he found it very interesting that the women in Africa, although they were Muslim, they weren't covering themselves like it is said by the Quran and the Sunnah. And so he found that very interesting. I don't know if he really passes judgment, but he does mention it, which tells the reader that he was kind of surprised at this because it was understood that if you're a Muslim, women are supposed to clothe themselves. But what that shows is that the African Muslims, they didn't, sometimes culture and religion mesh together. And this kind of what happened here in Africa. It wasn't their culture to cover up like it was in the hot Arabian desert. And so it clashed with them, and they did like Islam, but then they definitely didn't like that part of it, and so they just sort of discarded it. It's not the first time. Sunni Ali was succeeded by his son, who was also a non-Muslim. This guy gets overthrown by a man named Askia Muhammad, which I believe was their general. And under this man, um, he runs the Songhai Empire. Islam becomes the state religion for Mali, so he makes Islam the official state religion. Arab scholars were brought to Timbuktu. Timbuktu becomes again this height of cultural uh, fusion and power. I mean, if you wanted to learn about Islam, you went to Timbuktu to study with some of the greats. And so this comes to the poor end of the Songhai Empire. Uh, they were defeated by a force of about 1,000 Berbers, and they were Moroccans in 1590. And this is the question we all have to ask ourselves: is it was only 1,000 forces, but they had something that the other people didn't have. They had an advantage, and so the Moroccans were successful because they had arquebuses or arquebus, which is a firearm that precedes the musket. So I want you to think about like an old flintlock musket that they had in the Revolutionary War, and I want you to think about what came before that. So this is a really rudimentary compared to now form of using gunpowder to shoot out some kind of a projectile, and we call them arquebus or arquebuses as it says here. Now the Moroccans, because they only had 1,000, but they had this, and the Songhai Empire had never seen this kind of blew them away literally, uh, because they didn't have technology that can match it. They were still using bow and arrows and other things. So the Moroccans captured Timbuktu, the salt mines of Takassa, the gold mines of Mali. Moroccans just pretty much capture it all. They take control of Songhai, and instead they keep soldiers in the city of Mali for the next 150 years. So again, it changes here. This is what an arquebus looks like. Again, it's just, I mean, if you see in his hand, it doesn't look like a rifle. It looks smaller, almost like it's in between a rifle and like a long pistol. It's so this is a little longer here, but yeah, so it's kind of like the grandfather of the actual musket that they use in the Revolutionary War. And because of the frequent wars, this was also a time of intense slave trade of war prisoners for the Arab slave markets. And so that's going to lead up into a lot of the slave trading that started to pursue around the 1400s in in Africa. And I think that just might end us here today. Mali, Senegal, and Guinea are major gold producing countries even today. Um, as you can see, all here, here's Guinea, and here's Sierra Leone, and here's Mali. And unfortunately, this is also where a lot of the Ebola outbreak is going on right now, which is sad to hear. And that's the end of our lecture today. So I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I look forward to discussing this with everybody on Monday. So everyone take care, and we'll see you Monday, and be safe.